soji be sonanki
Lola
peshi sangye do sangye chodan soji chonan la chanchu bardo dani kyang soji dagi jin soji be sonanki lola peshi sangye do
Yeah. Good morning. 딱 가서 민중고 시바. 다들이 자주 쓴다. 아니 돈이도 나와서 나만 쏘나. 민중시에디 간다 민중기 삼바시에디 매버이나 타바 돈이지로 지 말에 타바 돈이길로 데 마치버이나 타바 돈이게 체데 라마야 라고 말에 데 말하면 타바 줘요 말어 데 손자다 민중시에디 허에 되듯이 탐지데 타도나 도매기라 시지지 예산에다 거리에 민중상도 그래서
Okay, so yesterday we talked about the general summary of the three principal aspects of the path to enlightenment. Of these three, we yesterday said, okay, renunciation is this, bodhicitta is this, and the practical view of emptiness is this, right? Then, so as we said yesterday, that the definite emergence or renunciation is important for us because this gives us the enthusiasm to liberate ourselves from samsara, without which we wouldn't have the aspiration to look for liberation. That means we always remain in samsara. But then to generate this thought, this definite emergence, or nyejung in Tibetan, what we need to know that all phenomena included in samsara are only in the nature of suffering. But that means no matter where we go, no matter what we eat, no matter what we live with, it's all suffering nature. So we have to realize this. Without this realization, we cannot generate the renunciation.
딱 가서 하나 동해에 다 열배 코어스에 들려야 다 열배 세 저거들 다 열어 가르치나 동해 기사와디 뇽몽이 지 뇽몽세티 로친지로 로코 로시지리 뇽몽세티 게 집안나지 동어변의 소리요 말에 이제 뇽몽티 랑이 지다유라 친지로 랑게 지당 당가비 참아요. 코라비 지당가비 참아요. 때 요이전 용모세에 빠요. 용모세요. 요와 가르스나 용모세에 콜이야 노지님부터 돼요. 코다 지당가비 참아요. 님보다 때문이나 안티 도조 방식이 고 빠요. 때 된적 순이샤요. 코라 님보 요이나 님보다 때문에 이게 도초디 아니 교회 요어디 그리고 대륙순이 차려요.
So when we generate such thought, the nyejung or definite emergence, then this gives us the energy to move or toward liberation. And then when we look for this liberation, then of course automatically this puts us in the mechanism to look for a path which leads us to nirvana. And then at this point, we then have a question in ourselves. The question is, okay, is it really possible to have attain liberation? Is it really possible to have nirvana? And the answer is yes. Why nirvana is possible? Because it is possible to remove or stop our delusion. Because delusion is the cause of the samsara. From the delusion comes our samsara. So if we stop the delusion, then we stop samsara. This means in some way, we attain the liberation. And to remove this delusion, what we need is we need a valid cognition, a valid mind, which realizes the object exactly opposite to what our delusion thinks. Our delusion only apprehends things or phenomena in the wrong way. So then the valid cognition or the right mind, the valid mind, realize exactly the opposite object or an object that is opposite to what is apprehended by the delusion. So once that delusion is removed, then the nirvana is possible. But then of course we then have to know what means this antidote in delusion. We say that the delusion are a negative mind, they are negative thought, and they do not have a valid base. They do not have valid support. Whereas the valid cognition, the mind looking for liberation, is a valid thought. It is a valid support. Why? Because it has so many antidotes. There are so many antidotes which are against delusion. Because delusions are only illusion, like illusive thoughts. So since they have no valid basis, they can be stopped by using the antidote correctly, which is the wisdom, understanding the reality in the right way.
나는 가서 차리기 장리야 누구요? 차리 땅 장리 세대 너지 있어. 다 장리 세대. 장리 세대 좀에 요가들 가서는 뭐 차리 때문이나 장리 쪽에 요가들 가서 대나시 더 쉐바 세대 너무 세대 이네 호란 스타 유카리 로티 미부 카레를 미니 가지로 대다이도 지게 도초 단 예부지로 스타 뭔가 로지 디지 로지 이네 광내를 아주래 되냐면 지금 도초 너무디 마 슈충 존 다 너무 주 세베게 세바지 요가 지고 그래서 너무디 이 방법이나 동해시에 다 빠요. 그래서 동해에 자원 너무 지고 너무 방법이나 동해에 타고지 대이사 들어가서 동해에 냐고 말해 어두세요
To let's say expose this meaning, we can use example of hot tangibility and cold tangibility, hot touch and cold touch, or hot tangibility which are hot heat, natural heat, and tangibility which are cold nature. This means if we have a natural heat, it directly opposes the cold tangibility. Anything that is cold can be stopped, can be eliminated by the heat. If there's no heat, even the touch of the heat is already enough. Just by the without talking about the heat itself, just the sensation, the touching of the heat is able to oppose the cold area, the cold place, the cold, touching. So if that is possible, then also we say, okay, we consider the heat nature or the hot nature like antidote, and we consider the delusion like the cold nature. So then the heat opposes the antidote opposes the delusion. Delusions are only negative thought. They understand what they mistake always their object. They think in the wrong way, and then so since they are not based upon valid base, they can be eliminated. This is the idea in Buddhism.
제가 가서 드리시고 그러니까 동해시에 동해 이제 세요리스 동해시에요 가르스나 동해 기준 요mol이야 님부터 배우리 예치스 드시고
We usually in Buddhist philosophy we make we use reasonings, we use syllogism, like the subject, predicate, and sign, like reasons, So we say the suffering as a subject, it is possible to be stopped, predicate, and the reason is why, because there exists an antidote and a strong antidote. Why? Because the delusions are the delusion could be removed. Therefore, the suffering also can be stopped. So we have this like the subject and the predicate and the reasoning, the sign. The sign proves that the sufferings are possible to be removed by knowing that when the delusions are removed, automatically the sufferings are also removed. This is how we use the reasonings in the Buddhist philosophy when we study the debating process.
그래서 묘모스에 뒤닦고 가서 그래. 콜레야 지당갑이 참아지고 그래. 호랑을 미버치는 지당갑이 참아시 맞추고 루어맵지. 묘모스에 뒤고 루어지. 지서 호랑이 지당갑이 참아요 그래서. 아니 묘모스에 뒤기 호랑이 유대 집어나기 들이야 뒤요 말이. 집어나 이게 다른 요 말이. 묘모스에 들어 걸 잡대 참아 요 말이. 묘모가 이뭐 지당갑이 참아 들어 걸 내버려. 걸 잡대 참아요. 오다도 쉬워라.
So what we see is that the deluded thoughts have their own object that is apprehended by the delusion, yeah. And then we have the other opposite mind, which means the valid cognition. It has its own object of apprehension, which means object that is perceived by the valid cognition. So usually we say object that is perceived by the delusions and objects that is perceived by the wisdom antidotes are completely opposite, because what the delusion perceive is completely not existing. What the wisdom, what the path perceives objects, the objects that is perceived by the antidote is something existing. Therefore, they are contradictory. Objects perceived by the delusion is contradicted by the objects perceived by the path. This is then why we said that the delusion delusions do not have any valid basis, valid support, whereas the path, wisdom have so much valid, and they are right. They're on the right side. So whatever is right is always winning. This is the theory.
지상 가서 뺏음시고래. 그러나 말아서 주지 묘모스에 뒤 말아서 생기랑 힘이야. 효요 말이지. 묘모디 생기랑 효요 말이지. 그러나 추리랑 힘이라 묘모마 효과다. 나기랑 힘이라 지마 효과다. 아니 세지랑 힘이 야마 효과다. 그러나 세대소라 야자야. 이나야 세코라랑 힘이 야 효요 말. 추조가 같이 요나야 추리랑 힘 묘모마 효이사 추자마서야. 세코라 상실이 야마 효이사 야묘가 자마서야. 남칼라 가서 근데 쯤만 보지는 남칼 제도요나. 아니 남기 상실이 지마 효이사. 진짜 남칼이 있는 곳에 자야도 봐. 어때나지 말아서 용모세에 말아서 심지 상실이 효요 말에 내가 있었고 정말 로가지. 인사 저한테 다야요리스. 용마다 자야요리스 어디시 보나.
Then in the Buddhist scripture, what they presents is that they talk about the mind nature that is pure nature of mind. This means the mind itself, our mind itself is pure by nature, but then it is temporarily covered, it is obscured by delusions. And this is similar to the fact of gold that is pure by nature. So since the gold itself is pure, but then maybe gold it can have some kind of mixture of maybe other objects which can be removed. In case if the gold were completely one with the negative, let's say like a substance, then it couldn't be removed. Or also we can say, when we look at the sky itself is clear by nature, but then from time to time, the sky is full of smoke, some clouds, but these are only temporary oscillations. So anything that is temporarily obscurable has always a solution. Anything that is temporary can be removed, like the clouds, like the best substance in the gold, or like the obscuration in our mind. Since they are temporary, we can remove them because the mind itself is pure by nature.
야, 다 도시고래. 따티서 내중세대 다 도시고래. 가다 내중세대 동해래. 탐구불로지. 동해래. 다 타버티. 묘모 빵빵 동해 빵빵지. 탐나니 빌로더라 내중세대. 따티니 내중들이야 소명 용거래. 가서 다 내중들이 이용거래. 그러나 특보 침묵의 내중지가 ini ma tiba chungu ki ta ngi jung se ni yo ti za ta tiba chembu ki ngi jung se de jia la ini tho se ji de cha chu se bu ni se wa ti za ma de de so ngi jung te ya nam da sem ji ji se ti ni ngi jung te ya ta ba dong ni ji lo te ya ini cha chu sem ji ni se ma ji bu ni se tho se ji de cha chu sem ji se ma ji bu ni de me na la ne me bi cha chu 인종으로 연하야 아니 자 꿀로들 자주지 심지세 뭐내가 있나 아니 나는 매비 저주도 말했으니 상제도 말했어 대매와 있어 로덴남지 자주 심조 제스다 로덴스도 자주 만남지 니 당보 인종제와 정도 마시고 아니 자주세 제고 가서는 자주세 맞지나 상제요 말했으라 그래.
After all this, let's say, like talking, then I should say like this now, what means definite emergence, what means renunciation in some way, in simple way, So then the answer is definite emergence or renunciation is a mind which wishes to leave, which wishes to go away or escape away from sufferings. And it is a mind which wishes to attain automatically, which wishes to attain nirvana. Yeah, this is the definition, we can say, definition of the definite emergence. So having known what means renunciation, then of course then we have to know that the definition, the renunciation itself or the definite emergence itself has then different levels, depending on which category, what the level we are, we can adapt ourselves according to the level of the renunciation. So in more or less we can say the definite emergence is of two types. One we call the definite emergence of the Hinayana, one we call the definite emergence of the Mahayana. So these two are both are same in wanting to leave stop suffering. They are same also in wanting to attain the nirvana, but then the objective, the aim is different. One is for oneself, one is for the sake of alternate being. So this is the difference. And then of course, having known what renunciation is, what they are made out of, what levels there, what divisions there are, then we have to generate it. But then to generate this definite the renunciation, then let's say for that of the Hinayana, it's enough just to want to leave some sufferings. But that of them for the Mahayana, what we need as a condition is we need the condition of the a wish of a wish for a companion, a factor which wishes to help others, and that makes the Mahayana renunciation. Yeah, otherwise it is not qualified as Mahayana renunciation.
장축지 셈스나 장축지 셈스지 장축스나 상제스고 부다스고 장축지 셈스에디 셈제 탐지지 돈 고노 라지도 돈 먹어 나게 타르니 셈제 탐지지 돈도 현동도 라니 이네 상지지 고노 하면 이마로 뭐냐면 상제 tum도지 셈지가 장축지 셈스 장축스나 상제 tum도지 셈
Okay, so to generate this the definite emergence of the Mahayana we need the company or the condition of the mind of bodhicitta, or the wishing to help others. Yeah. Now, what means this bodhicitta now? The question, yeah, the mind of enlightenment or mind, the bodhicitta. Bodhicitta in this case means it means the mind of enlightenment. So enlightenment is the objective, and the mind is the desire to attain the goal. Now, what is exactly meaning this? It means it is a thought which desires to attain such the great nirvana, so that one can help other sentient beings. So this is what makes the renunciation to be minor renunciation.
제자다 빼나 마서 대승요리다 빼나 미치 이니 카시우주 공부요나 미디 이니 카시우지 공부요나 이니 딘디기 꼰비 동행디 이니 서워 제발라 미디 갈고스나마 최지 중앙사 최동이 요나 그러나 조디 미디기 카 공부요에서 조 최동이 요나 이나야 최동의 니비기 이나리야 최루사가 너지 돈이 요래 그래서 조디 최 돈이 요래나 디연아 너 돈이 요래 된나 시치네 자주 셈스도 셈기 빨리 현동치 양도 저비 자주 더 조디 현동 돈이 요래 그리고 생계 탐지지 시 돈다는 주 생계 탐지는 편도 자치고 제오선 조 코라기 자주 생각해 조 너무 조디 현동 주의들이 디연아도
Okay, now we can say like this. Let's say we have, or let's say somebody who is very thirsty. This person is so eager in looking for, in finding water because he's thirsty. She's thirsty. So in his mind, what his principle is to get the water. That is the main goal. But then when this person, when she looks for the water, automatically he needs a container, a cup to use for taking the water. So in her mind or in his mind, the container is not principle, is not really the principal object. For this person, what is principle is the water. But then by the way of attaining that, getting the water, the cup is something achieved, something done, something obtained by the way, like incidentally or on the way. It comes by itself. We get it on our way. So there are things that we are looking for, like as the main object of attainment. There are things that we don't look for it principally, but we realize them on the way. So similarly, when we look for the altruism, object of altruism, we mainly try to seek a way to help other people, but then to help this, to realize this, the help, then automatically it also realizes our own personal interest, personal welfare, that is to attain the enlightenment. This means what we want is to help people, but then to do that, somehow we need enlightenment. So this is why the altruistic purpose and the personal purpose, they are related to each other, We need the enlightenment to help other people. So then one is helping to each other, the other helps the other one.
제가 다 장수 심세디 특별 첨부 세기 민디 특별히 장수 심 라주리 제거해서 강사디 특별 첨부스 이 장수 심어스 민디 도래 장수 심 내가 있는 희 강사디 줄이야 연대 가르쳐 버리나요 특별 첨부 세기 최대 주요 말에 대자 장수 심데 특별 첨부 람지 휴신 있고 특별 첨부 람지 조대 장수 심데 특별 람지 유고 맞아 칸반이야 주어를 보는 일이 자주 생기죠. 애네 칸반으로이나 칸보디 휴식세 줘봐. 그만가서 톱밥 지기 도시 어디나히 다 조조디 특별 첨부세 조조디 자주 생기. 라떼네 특별 첨부 따오요래. 년중 다 돈이 되게 싫을 때 되면 아니요래. 이나 다나 통모만 차디요. 다 티보 첨부세 조조의 자주생들 아니고요.
So this means among the three principal aspects, what is really important is the second aspect, in the sense that it is the main condition which makes us to attain the enlightenment, without which enlightenment cannot be reached. It's like when this bodhicitta is generated, then we become, or the person becomes Maya. When this mind of enlightenment or the bodhicitta is developed, that person then is even if she doesn't have the wish, he becomes, or that person becomes, entering in the mandala of the Maya. This is the point. Therefore, in the Mahayana, in Buddhist scripture, we say that the bodhicitta is like the main gate of a palace, or it is like the main beam, main beam of the room of a house. When we make a house, we make the construction of the walls, but then what we need is, on top we need a roof. But then to be able to uphold the roof, we need something that really upholds the whole roof. And what we need is, we need a principal beam, from west to the east, or from north to south, depending on how the house is made. So then on top of the wall that is set up for the building, what we need is a strong beam, so that all the other all the other sticks can be put on top of this. And this is why the bodhicitta is like the main beam. So this is something that makes the renunciation also very strong to attain the enlightenment. If we talk about only the first aspect, the third aspect, they are important, of course, but they are not the one that makes us to the Maya. Because if it's only renunciation and only the correct view of emptiness, this is also, they are existing also in the continuum of the Hinayana people. Other people also have, but the other people, the Hinayana people, they have also the right view of emptiness. They also have renunciation, but they don't have the bodhicitta. So this is what it makes the big difference between Hinayana and the Maya.
제가 와서 택과 첨부를 또 첨부세 자주 생들 아주 여기서 택과 첨부세를 우리가 근데 그 택과 첨부라고 첨부세고 삼바티 자 첨부를 군호디 자 첨부 삼바 자 첨부가 가스나 라지부 동문과 생계 탐지지도 아니 산지도 같은 누구요 그래서 테메에서 해야 돼 가지고 택과 멤버스 해야 돼 그래서 연락 돈이도 있다고 요래 민중 요래 요래나 라지부 동도 아니 지고 동이들 타나니 빌로지마도 생계 탐지세 기사버디 요 말이 다들 자주 선바세 해야 돼 라 생계 탐지 돈도 아니 려다요 생계 탐지 돈도 아니 려동네 생계 탐지세 남칼이야 타요 말이 남칼이야 체다 탐면은 아니 생계는 타다 체다 남칼이 타면이야 생계 탐지세 도시 미유대 대충 실지에서 대고 첨부 민다다.
Then even the term, when we use the word yana, yana is the vehicle, right? So we have Hinayana, which means lesser vehicle or small vehicle. Then we have Mahayana, which means great vehicle. So even this term shows the Maha, Maha means great. So what makes great is the attitude, it makes us great. Because with the attitude of Mahayana or the bodhicitta, it includes as an objective, as an aim, it includes the infinite number of sentient beings. So that makes it great. Otherwise, great of what? We don't need so many greats, What we need is the great mind, the great quality, which thinks of the welfare or the benefit of all sentient beings, which is not really not existing in the case of Hinayana. In the case of Hinayana or lesser vehicle, what they have, you know. In the Hinayana case or the lesser vehicle, in the small vehicle case, they don't have the concern of limitless, infinite number of sentient beings. What they are concerned is only for myself, only for me. Oh, I want to do this for myself. I want to attain liberation. I want to have nirvana for myself. This is why we say it's very small, very limited. It's not as huge, as great as somebody who is bodhisattva, who is thinking of a limitless sentient beings, like the space, completely infinite.
제가 아니 시월이 준준나를 뒤송요래. 가와 통화라고 저거에 통화나게 되니 파바스이 있어. 제가 산지 중된데 코랑기 가와 망고리야. 로조체 야매체 엄데도 그것이요. 랑기 셈이야. 팬도 치슈디 가래야. 야슈디 야매나 야슈디 가래야래. 자주지 셈이 야슈디. 통화나게 되니 코나스 되니 야슈디 자주생 공부를 하지 내가 비나리 타투 비나리 상게 돈다 현지 돈다 그때 하고 현미도스 어디서 거래서 숨어요.
So then, maybe you have already heard, the teaching about the name about this great Indian master called Shantideva, In his text, Bodhisattva Charya Avatara, Shantideva says something very important. He said, the Buddhas, Buddhas, is plural, yeah? It's not singular. So it sounds like only one Buddha, but in fact, it's so many, there are so many Buddhas, So the Buddhas, they have practiced, they have meditated, they have realized so many things, in their life, in their practice, during the whole course, during all their path from the very beginning until the enlightenment, they've gone through so many kinds of meditation, But then all those Buddhas then they discover what is most principal is all these Buddhas taught. The most important thing is the bodhicitta. Of course, many other practices are important, but the Buddhas have realized only the bodhicitta is the most beneficial, the most important, factor for ourselves, for temporary time, for long term, for short term. Is always this bodhicitta is what we need. This is what the Buddhas have discovered by themselves. And Shantideva saw this, and Shantideva said this in his teaching, Bodhisattva Charyavatara.
어떻게 송도와 제자 아디샤 코라야 라마마고 시루지요래. 아디샤라 라마마고 지여비 나니 따티나리야 코라게 이 장축샘 담아 담고 슈세티. 장축샘이 도발해서 장축샘을 담아 슈세티. 라마 세민바세 디사 슈거래. 라마 세민바세 데 따와데 심상 남내비 따와래. 조지 코라 오마비 따와래. 따와시는 조지 코라 도요래. 때이나야 코라 라마 탐지까지 치슈티. 자위라마 도티. 라마 가면은 자치슈티. 라마 세민바 저요. 데 주세 가르스나 라마 세민바 자니 코라 아니 자주심 도마슈 자주심 남아 슈 델레데니 코라 자주심 양이 제가 있다가 셈을 주고 힘을 줘서 셈을 편도 힘을 줘서 뒤에서 같이 치슈티 라마 세민이 있으니 코라 디소요.
Then we have another great master in Tibet. Well, not Tibet. Well, he is originally from India, but then he went to Tibet and exposed the Dharma teaching to Tibetan people. Yeah. So this master Adisha, is he had so many masters. Adisha had these, that, so many masters, and very important, all with so many realizations. But then Adisha, he always referred one specific master called Salimpa, Survanadeva. Survanadeva is the master, his name, and this has something to do with the place, the name of the place. Anyway, So Suvarnadipa, this Lama Selingpa, he was the one who gave teaching on bodhicitta to Adisha. He received teaching from many other lamas, other masters, but on bodhicitta, only Selingpa gave the teaching on bodhicitta. So then Adisha said, oh, I pay homage, I pay my respect, homage to Lama Selingpa, Master Selingpa Suvarnadipa. Why? Because when he compares himself, the gratitude of all the teachings, he found that the instruction that he received from Lama Selingpa was greatest for him. But then, of course, when we look at them, Adisha and Selingpa, from our point of view, philosophical level, you should know Adisha's level of philosophical understanding was much higher. Philosophically, yeah. Philosophically, his master Selingpa was lower. What we call Selingpa was belonging to the third level of school. We call Chittamatra. Chittamatra has different levels. There's one called true aspectarian Chittamatra. So Selingpa belongs to that category. Adisha himself was a higher level, the fourth level of philosophical school. So although he was higher philosophically, but he had really great devotion to a master who is belonging to lower level of philosophical understanding. So doesn't matter what level they are. Adisha said, I really pay my homage and my respect to Selingpa, he said.
제사까지 조디 가서나 자주 셈세디 시우지기다 냐네 셈에 조 시우지 티에 셈에 해도 시우지 중에데 자주 셈 냐세까지 인자 아니 디 자주 셈게 당하다 냐네 슈사티 라마디 셈인자 셈바디 라마 헤다만 라마 탐지진다니까 조디 어디 저유에서
Then, of course, from Adisha's point of view, of pointing out this big master was because the bodhicitta subject was the only subject, only topic that really changed his life, changed his way of thinking, his mental behavior. So then he really considered the Selingpa or the Suvarnadipa master as the most precious for him, because this gave him so much, let's say, like in some ways, some kind of a blessing, some kind of energy in his life. So therefore, he said, I really do all my, pay my highest reverence to Lama Selingpa.
제가 미신다기 아디샤기 칠이야 아디샤가 라마 히바디디 체도스 체교인데 조지 라사 라바디 무슨 차지장으로서 아니 조지의 기꾼들이야 라마 셀링바 세디 쳔버니 라사 라홈이야 미리야 미치다고 요래서 라 차지장을 마세요 라홈이야 미치쇼에 거래서 아다디 숨도와 조지 나타나미야
when we, of course, if you read, when we read, the Buddhist scriptures, the scriptures about the biography of Adisha, it says that in the past, when Adisha was alive, different masters come along, different students, different disciples come along to him, and they talk about different masters, different masters of Adisha, So each time when the name of some masters of Adisha were mentioned from the mouth of disciples, Adisha would always join his palms, rendering his homage to this master. Another name of master is mentioned, Adisha would join his palm. Another name of master of Adisha is mentioned, again Adisha would join his palm together to show his respect. But then when somebody, anybody, maybe a disciple or maybe a friend of somebody who would mention the name of Lama Selingpa Guru, this master, Suvarnadipa master, Adisha would not only join the palm, but also he would be moved emotionally. Adisha would have, some kind of almost, some tear would fall from his eyes, because of his great touching, from hearing the name of his master, Subhanadipa.
야, 다들 송구하리 되니까 다 자축 셈세티 평소 무시우지 송구하리 되니까 가서 그래. 이 자축 셈세티 다 기지 까마 칠이야. 우체 칠을 되지. 자축 셈고이나 다들 초시우지 싸우요. 소자치 무시우 싸우요. 대바이나 대바배 시사요네. 들이 디마 다양하게 시우리. 영국의 교생 가르치려면 장주기 셈세의 미유대. 다 타요마 심지 탐지 있으니 미유대 소요래. 제자 마라츠기 이 디바디 마라츠 심지기 디바디 패치와디 심지는 된 상황이래. 마라츠 디바 사이디 디바 사사디 패치와디 심지는 된 디바 상황. 디자 장주쌤께 매일때 심지어 탐지 그리고 동행의 저에게 체들 디체도 심지어 인자但是 심지어게 장단이 안 되겠다 소시오지 싸우요 디자 심지어를 되고 그거 돼 어떻게 되냐 스페나 가서 미디 이니 살아 되는 많이 기억이나 야라에 살아 되는 야라고 그래서 베테르 디자 말아서 디바 사마디 아비지 심지어는 돼서 심지어지 기가 가서 심지어는 심지어는 되니 디바 싸우요 디자 자주 생각하들이 심지어는 되니 디바 돼 향요
we say what it is said in the text, that the Bodhisattva is so precious, so great that that each time when we generate, when we develop, it helps us to purify so many negative karmas. And also each time when we develop, even for one instant, for 1 second, it helps us to create so many merits. Of course, we don't see, merit, like we don't expect to see merit, in the form. But in terms of subtle level, at the mental level, the energy of the merit is so huge that it cannot even fit, in the space, in the imaginary space, And why this is so is because it's something, the bodhicitta is something that that includes a limitless sentient beings like the space in its concern, in the concern or in the thought of the bodhicitta. Not only some sentient beings are included, but the whole, the numberless sentient beings are included. So therefore, that many number of the negative karma also is purified. But that much amount of merit is also accumulated. So this is a little bit, if we, this is easy in some way, or maybe it can be also difficult. Maybe we can say like this. For instance, usually, if we think carefully, in what context we make negative karma, if we ask a question. So the answer in this case is, when we think of negative karma, most of the time we create the negative karma in relation to sentient beings. So if we make the negative karma in relation to sentient beings, this means also we have to purify the negative karma also in relation to sentient beings. Same as, or exactly like when somebody falls on the ground. When somebody falls on the ground, again the person wakes up. But person, to be able to wake up, the person has to touch his own hand on the ground. He falls on the ground, at the same time, it's the ground itself on which one is able to wake up, one is able to stand up. So similarly, we make the negative karma independent on sentient beings, but we also have to purify independent on the sentient beings. So that means, just as we create the negative karma by depending on the sentient beings, we purify by generating the bodhicitta toward them. This is the technique. This is the key point of this the purification, and the key point of the huge benefit of the benefit of bodhicitta mind.
세상 가서 된지 송요래 다다 가서 덴바 데니 시비 도시가 수들이 송요래 덴바니 마 시비 디카트도 송요래 아니 니라 드좀바 그나 니도 샤리보다 뭔가를 벌어서 그래 니라가 드좀바 마무 시우치 추모 감리기 있네 가서 보다 주목한 게 롱이 정말 다른 게 아니에요. 이게 몇다 좀 봐. 얘네 망고듯이 얘네 대학에 까와 망고리야 어머니 나서. 대돈이 권비기다 소남대 대다 장주스 말래 당고 저서 저라 주목을 지기. 니만 지리야 돈이 권비고. 이 소남대 소자 쳐버려 소피한 쳐버리면 자선 주주스 말래 당고 지기. 니만 지 돈이 권비. 가래슬람나 자주스마 디에기 니마지 돈이 공부한테 심지어 탐지기 체도 많이 공부를 했어. 그래서 심지어 탐지 지수 심지어 탐지 심지어 드라마를 하는데 돈이 공부 배워도 좋아해. 얘랑 같이 봤다 망고 시비지 여기 있나 까봐 망고 봐봐 있나요? 돈이 공부한테 가두나 말하지 무체도 싸는 돈이 공부를 해. 대해서 배워. 충분히 소대소
Regarding this subject matter, I should say, even Buddha himself mentioned in the sutra, talking about how much benefit there is from developing the bodhicitta. So Buddha in his sutra called the sutra regarding the two truths, two truths, the ultimate truth and the conventional truth. So Buddha, talking, making the discourse on the two truths, this and that. So at a certain point, Buddha said, meditation on the ultimate truth, meditation on your emptiness is so important, is so powerful. So then Buddha said, okay, there are here's arhat, hinayana arhats, those who have attained nirvana in the small vehicle, and then there are also arhats, or those who have followed the second yana called the Parteka Buddha, or the soul that realizes. There are also arhats belonging to the yana. So then Buddha said, okay, there are so many of these arhats, so many like numberless arhats meditating on emptiness for so many eons. And then Buddha said that these arhats, there are so many as many as the numbers of the sand grains, grains of sand at River Ganj. You can imagine how many sand grains there are. It's just impossible to count. Even one surface of 1 centimeter is already too much. So you imagine the huge River Ganj. The sand grain, the grain of each sand in the River Ganj is something unimaginable. But the Buddha said, all these arhats, as many as the number of the sand grains in the River Ganj, meditate on emptiness for many eons. Of course, that this means the amount of the accumulation there is unimaginable, Buddha said. But Buddha said, even more than this is something done by one single bodhisattva, a bodhisattva who is very beginning bodhisattva, who is on the path of accumulation, who meditates on emptiness only one day, only one time, is much bigger than all the accumulation merit done by all those arhats for many years. And Buddha said why? It's simply because the simple bodhisattva, when he meditates on emptiness for one time, his motivation involves the bodhicitta, thinking of that he does this for the sake of authentic beings. So that makes his meditation on one time much bigger than all those huge accumulation of merit by all these arhats for so many years.
그래서 딱 된지 정도가 되어서 꼴롱디 나가서 내가 몇 시바지리야 심지 쪼르지라 가서 내가 세 캄콩지 김바당 그거 제비는 꼴롱데 그거 생제 탐지 그거도 세네다 되지게 꼴롱데 세 캄지 되고 있는 그냥 쉬어지고래 다 꼴롱세게 내가 제 양은 말하지 못하면서 그냥 조용히 맞는 거 말이야.
Okay. Maybe we can say like this, even when when we want to give something, a small, handful of food to some beggars, Of course, when we give the food to them, to the beggar, of course it's a benefit, benefit for the beggar who is hungry, who is thirsty. But then the attitude we have, this makes difference, Maybe somebody gives the food, I want to be famous, I give something. The motivation is, is the key point, But it may be when somebody gives this small food for the sake of authentic beings. In front is only one person, but then in his mind, he includes all the numberless sentient beings. So this motivation of this altruism, this then really makes a big difference from somebody who gives the small food for only for personal fame, celebrity. Then of course there's not so much benefit. Of course there's a benefit for something to fill up, satisfy his desire, but it's not as huge as somebody who makes his generosity.
그래서 따뜻하게 송고도 어디 이상 라마 송하 베테 송고래 간나 레남 삼바 상일라 마라수 대와다 동에시티 대와다 동에시티 레 간나라 데니 주마리스 간나글레 주마리스 간나글레 세티야 랑기 쿠노 삼바 상일티 주마리스 간나글 삼바 상일라 삼바 상 사다나야사 삼바 벤 사다나야니 탐지 삼바 담라레스 메티기 보송 저거 가르치고 있는 한기디 또 나도 코너서 삼발을 알려버려 있어 어디 숨말이야.
So then because of the motivation being so fundamental, also Lama Tsongkhapa underlined in his text, saying that any kind of karma we make, whether it is positive karma or negative karma, depending on the intensity of our motivation, the karma can become very intense. But if the motivation is like very simple, like very light, then also action becomes very light. But if the intensity is very, very intense, very strong, the bodhicitta mind, then also the quality, the quality of the action, the karma itself can become very heavy. If it's bodhicitta mind, action becomes very strong, very powerful. So therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa said, okay, any kind of action we do is determined by the attitude. So therefore, if the motivations are positive, all the actions that follow are later are all positive. If the motivation is in negative, then Lama Tsongkhapa said, any action that we do later, they all become negative. So then Lama Tsongkhapa said, therefore, one has to be very, very careful what we think, what attitude we develop, Lama Tsongkhapa was saying.
따뜻하게 송고요 대이사 스마상고 지역으로 했어야 돼. 패키지 뭐 지역으로 요래. 스마상고 지역이나 소수 지역으로 요래. 소수 로바 지역으로 요래. 스마상고 지역다. 나 소수 침상 남미지나 사상지나 스마상고 지역나 가지고 있는 지역으로 요래. 근데 스마데 야고지 매버이나 스마데 빼라시 차고 마루 차고 지역 가지고 있는 지역으로 요래. 미사가시 되리고 가시 반족의 내당 시라 교부를 이나야 사상 나로 지지지가 내 세워요 참고요니까 시대시 가지고 있는 스마죠 진 소지네 또 되니지요 가시 미사가시 반족 내당 야고 요 되나야 빨리 지지지가 세워요 지지지가 나시 소지 가지고 있는 투바자니 가지고 있는 스마마 지지지 누구도
But then, of course, in practice, at a practical level, what does it mean? And at practical level, it means, we try to modify, we try to change our attitude, we try to have better mind, we try to have less egoism. This is the point. If we are too much egoist, too much self-cherishing, then of course we don't need to say so much. It just somehow creates so much misery. Anybody who's around feels unhappy. Ourselves also become unhappy because there's so much desire for oneself. I want this, I want that, and it's never fulfilled. So it just creates so much intense suffering around. But if one had this thought of trying to help, trying to do something good for others, then even if one were poor, still something is a good energy is shared, and so this is why in some time in our life in society, when we see some people, poor family, poor husband and wife, they really have good life. They really have simple life. Economically, they are poor, but somehow they maintain the balance of their life in harmony. It's some kind of happiness. But when somebody has no good heart, then maybe economically one can be very rich, super big house, big car, and this and that. But then inside is very poor, very self-cherishing, very egoist. So then the others and oneself feel very, living in misery, always maybe fighting and angry, and I want this, you want that. You go to west, I go to east, so like each of them goes in a different direction because there's no harmony to wanting to share, wanting to help. So this altruism is really what we need, and this is essence.
学长，地基怎么的，什么时候的人物啊？
So in this way, we can understand in some way the root of our happiness, the root of our peace is altruism, is the to have good heart.
学长，什么上不写的，说没说的娘的找不赢了呀，你看这些娘的，图不赢，很找赢，他就没得了90%，他就没得了，没通下我，这个再回去，这是很讨厌的，去，看你上了比较赢，他的，这样回来，这没回去，他就那样，如果得了蛮对回去，如果去了蛮对回去，说。 라시 짜자 저 너가 제든 이후 말이 가서 그런다 내 레스 심바 상보들이 딱 해나 레마 딱 라시 로마 니 수지 라시 로마 아주 밀레야 미통시하고 콜레지 되고 아주 민도가 되고 하고 또 스토어가 그 말로 지 수수 그 너가 짠짠 몇 파주를 삼로 다 춘면은 미드 창마네
Then our life, goes along, today, tomorrow, and evening and morning and so on. The life goes on, but then along the life we have, life companion, life partner, family, husband, wife, and friends, and so forth. So then, it means at the end we need a care. We have to show some interest for other people, sort of like showing our affection, showing our respect to other people. If we didn't show, if we did only what we want, how even when walking, or when working together, when moving something together, if one is completely focused, concentrated on oneself, without never ever thinking about other people, then this would really somehow it creates a big gap between oneself and others the others would never feel happy, would never also respect back to us. Maybe when we do too much egoistic thing, sometimes maybe it works, depending on who we are with. Maybe sometimes we find some good-hearted people, but then they say, okay, no problem. Okay, let him do, let her do. We just let. But maybe if the other were always also self-cherishing, people with self-cherishing mind, then this would even worsen the situation. So usually in our life, what we need to do is we need to share, just to not only focus too much on our interest of the person, but also respecting interest of the other people. In that way, then others also feel being careful.
제가 다들 지출에 그런 것만 잡아래. 나 파이 지구래 그런 것만 고만 되지 않는 기초지래. 이 그런 유마 가수를 잡아 줘야 말 그런 알리지 말. 다들 내려요. 제가 그런 그 로봇도 진행시도 와. 더버리죠. 거기 맞아. 탤런트 주거지래. 그래서 탤런트 뭐지 그냥 장수제 되셔. 나 거기 알리도 군단 친가. 제가 인코라디 레고도 티 범어디 난 탤런트지 파마 탤런트지 이니 미사페 야고지 있어 미사 완전히다 야고 쉬고도 사고 탤런트 친구가 딱 뭐라 빈자 범어하시어서 빈자 범어하시어야 돼 그 탤런트 나눠야 미사 친구들이 장수제 남아 놓으셨어요 거기 내서 산 야게들이나 되셨어요 딱 본이 버게 내우요를 열어와 본인은 간밤에도 본인 얘기면 와
오래.
다다다티 이 기초지 잡아놓을 때 본래 원조시라요 말이야. 그래서 본만나가 낭비치를 장는 대학을 봐도 대륙이 소가로 말이 기요 말이 개개요 말이 거기들 그 낭다사요 말이 파마는 별을 하디 연합반 주스기요 말이 다 개개요 말이 본만들라 딱 거기 아니래야 로그치 아니 아리도 또 있어요. 아니 거기 배걸 친구와 배걸 친이 난 공생도 빈자트 나도 빈자트 상만하게 지지 있어요. 거기 걔가 조시 권열이 있어요. 이걸 내서 나 지난 번 놀샤스 많이 때 놀샤스. 지난 빈자트 때에 지난 남은 사실 모르죠. 빈자트 사실 뭐지 방전에다 빼야 보는 자리죠. 지난 많이 되어 있잖아요. 방거래 이게 요 말에. 네 전 조시 레샤 전 총라샤 뭐라 나도 써. 레다 반조 돌 조슈 말해야 되나야. 스마치 슈 말해야 생도사. 가서 너 코서 미사친 버리 되나 코서 요도 시위도 또 투바만 비자도
오래.
비자 보면서 스마치 버리도 있어. 이니 코란이 다들 참고도 와. 미리 미님 좀 하고 줘야 돼. 기사 코란 빼지고도 있어. 반조 매만 있나요? 말이야. 반조 계시 모르는 말이야. 제가 말이 제가 지니
Okay.
ini moras 집휴 레시상도 있어요.
Okay, that's
둘러도 사.
okay. Now I would expose something, like practical, situation, how people live with harmony, with happiness. Yeah, I have one, Tibetan, student, Dharma student. He was before monk, and then he stopped being a monk. He became a normal person, working. Then he somehow, slowly, he ended up being in America, in New York. So I met him. I knew him already when he was a monk, and I met him again also after stopping being a monk. So he talked to me. We had conversation. So this my student, he met in New York one girl from Thailand, from Bangkok. This Thai girl, she was there. Maybe she studied, university. She does some simple work, and then they met together, and then they live as like husband and wife. So then, living in New York, theoretically, being an American means you are rich. You must have your house, so on. But they don't have own house. They don't have their own things. So then one day, this Thai girl and him, they went back to Bangkok, to visit sisters, brothers, families, so and so. So then my student, also went there. Of course, then he saw how the other sisters are living. The other sister of this wife, has a rich husband, rich family, married to one rich boy, and then they went to the marriage, like party and this and that. So then the other two sisters were really super rich, very, like by Thailand's standard, yeah. Also in general standard. So then this my student told the Thai the girls, oh, you made a big mistake. Look, your sisters, how rich they are. You married to me and I'm poor. We don't have nothing, and your sisters are very rich. How? Then she said, no, they are rich by economy, but I'm rich in mind. She said this to him. So he was really touched, by this dialogue. So this means she said, the sister told him, my sisters are really strong. Strong means they're very rich, but they fight. Maybe in front they don't fight. But then in the real life, behind the stage, there's so much confusion, so much conflict. So then my sisters are going through so much very difficult life, and I have very easy life. I'm very happy with you. This is real life. So then this monk, this ex-monk, this person felt also very touched. He was also very happy. So then he told Geshe, okay, well, we have no house, we have we are not rich economically, but okay, my wife is very happy. I'm myself, I'm also very happy. So for us, this is fantastic. So this means when you have Dharma study, when you share the life with the little thing you have, you share. This is enough. Of course, if you had everything, fantastic. But even if you didn't have anything, still we can live in a very happy life.
시사들이라도 왔다. 사상이나 지리에 세워요나 참고요나. 아니 반전이다. 야고 매미나 지고도 와. 지고 같이 냠도사 지기지를 삼시지로 하지 지고도 와.
So then anyway, when the woman or the husband shares, when the woman shares whatever she has with the companion, they have very little money, but then they go out together. They care for each other, going out, coming in, moving here and there, with so much care, with so much love. Okay, then the life is really very happy, without so much confusion, without so much conflict, without so much argument. So this is, I think, a fantastic life, I think.
오다 데베레샤 대이상 다 장축지 셈세야디 장축 셈세야디 심지어 탐지기 체도 디지기베 삼바상고서 삼바당이 저빌린 수요 수삼당 게다가서 메마이비 로버트 소라야 디지 삼바당이 고랑기다 유대 고랑이 찬 남주도 요 말에 그냥 미기 람나니 시비 말에 마시 말에 통고 말에 마주 미치고래 단 미나리야 디지 삼당이 수요 zamlinga suyoda mitsama marajibu samadai mado yesinge tamjisene samadai suyo yoma ba da jiji ma so mili thoba di ka ya so samsama di jiji na ki tabe ni singe tamji randa dewa do jiwa to men du jiwa re koso ani dewa da dena to da transene di jiji on this step sama this time iki 시우지 배운 친구를 소소 밀리터버디다 미 남주 데버디다 어느 데버를 붙여 있어.
So I think to think of Bodhicitta, to think of altruistic attitude, I think is really beneficial. It is something that cannot fit in the mind of ordinary people easily. Only within some human people it is possible. It is possible to fit this thought in our mind. In the mind of usual people, is something even maybe do not they do not even this thought of helping and being altruistic somehow cannot fit in their mind. No? So this means for the animals, we don't even have to talk about, because animals already, because of their life, because of the body they have taken, do not even have the chance, to approach to the subject matter of bodhicitta. Even within human people, the human people, although they have human body, although they have intelligence, although they have everything, super quality, but still, also these human people cannot approach to this subject matter of bodhicitta and altruism, because their minds are too busy with their own self-cherishing mind. So we, being in, let's say, like spiritual growth, spiritual like field, we have this chance, we have this the mental, our minds are adapted, or somehow we can assimilate, we can work together. So I think it's good that sometimes if we sit down and meditate and cultivate this thought, maybe for some time, for a short, some minutes, one half an hour, or even less, I think is really very useful. It makes the life very meaningful. And then in this way, the human life we have taken, it becomes very meaningful. Otherwise, in human life, we are born, we grow up, and then we do all the life, all the works, this and that, and at the end, nothing. We just die.
Yeah, that part is sure.
Now we make a small short pause. Okay, now about one
Mass.
Come on. Or we make 5 minutes. Shouldn't you do that?
Yeah. That's the reason. 말아서 미치디 나로리야 소소 메시지 돈도 된 거지. 연구요래 메시지 지고지 연구요래.但이나 양말아서 미치디 나로리야 까미 가르친다. 제니 자고 가르치면 좋으세요. 애네도 가리는 좀 쳐버지래. 좀 써버지래. 이나 야다 좀비 값이야 맞아. 소소 생긴 냠네티 여기 있나? 치 제네 가서 중앙에 있나야 나야 샘플을 좀 대지. 진짜 제가 이제 미니 넘버 제고 SK 용어 되나야 남비 shum이 시에 되지. 로종 주고 다 생각을 거리야 소소 로종도 진행이 지리나. 지 니마르리나 소소 미시나로나. 배도 쉬우지 여기 되다 가서 영역도 나고 그래서.
Okay. So let's say we wish to have a good life. We wish to make a meaningful human life, and also we wish to end human life in a good way. Always everything in a good way. We would wish this. Everybody would wish like this. But then in reality, we don't really know. We don't really know if things will work exactly as we wish. We cannot say. We cannot tell. We cannot foresee already what will happen, after 2 days, after 2 months, after 2 years, we don't know. But maybe the solution, from Buddhist point of view, is the day when some kind of big disaster come to us, then we have to be ready mentally to confront the situation. So one doesn't have to be Buddhist, it's just a question of training. The Buddhist text, Buddhist only presents, this and that, but nobody has to be Buddhist, to confront the life. That's something that anybody has to do this in their life, So there's no need to be Buddhist, to confront in their life, to make their life better. So it's something that anybody would need, So people just prepare their mind. We just train our mind to adapt ourselves when real problems comes. In that way, when things are bad, we don't have to suffer. We don't have to feel so much, negatively down, stressful, and so on. So, but for this, of course, we need training. We need our mental preparation.
제사 좀 낸데 코란 기가 숨을 쓰려나 내 숨바디 딱지 치시고스 또 딱지 맞이지 내 숨바디 치 맞이스 내 숨바디 내 버티처럼 딱지 치시고스 어디 숨을해서
For this very purpose, for this very fact that I'm saying, also Buddha said, that one doesn't have to follow Buddha's teachings, Buddha's out of faith. Buddha said, just check up what I say, if it makes sense or not. The Buddha said this.
제사 디 남비기다 통 많이 버치하는 거였어.
And this point is something an uncommon. It's a quality of the Buddhism, That is something left in the hand of all people to think about, There's no need of obligation. Something open to the investigation to the checking of all people, All people can think about it.
제사 산제비 슈니야 셰베 시험비 수고 남자 가셔버데 타도는 주벌 주체 주벌이야 콩도 롱이야 콩도예요 말해서 대소문에서
So in Buddhism, when we present things, like teachings and this and that, it's all at the end comes, like three kinds of level, like in the course, in the road, the progress is divided in three portions or three steps. The basis, the base, the path, and the result. So there are these three things, basis, path, and result. But then when we conclude these three, we said that all these basis, path, and results are based upon reasonings. They are not based upon quotations. Usually we say, oh, this and this and this. It is because somebody says so. Oh, this is this because somebody says so. No. Usually we have this. When we quote, we think, oh, this is bad. This is our instinct usually. But in Buddha's case, no. Quotation is not really fundamental. Of course, we need some time, but it's not the fundamental. The fundamental is to use the reasonings, to use the logic, to check up if it makes sense or not. On that basis, there's all these basis, path and results work. They are all based upon this. They are not based upon the quotation.
제사 좀 낸데 룽소 말이스 리버소 말이스 룽다를 본 이기는 아니 룽다 가나 할레게 요 말이스 리버다 가나 일단 가버리스 직비는 넘어가고 룽군나는 기지 말이스 리버소 말이스 좀 낸데 호나 리비지스 반지지에서
So in Buddhism way of these two, the reasoning and the quotation, what is principle, what is most important thing is to ally with the reasoning, not to ally with the quotation. If we contradict the quotation, okay, no problem. It's not that big fault, no. or we do something wrong, we do something against the quotation. But okay, no. But if we contradict the reasoning, then it's not right because it's not logical. So whenever we follow or do something, it has to based on the reasoning, and whatever we do must be free of logical harm. Harm, if there is a harm, if we see some kind of defect, some kind of harm from the point of view of logic, then it's not right. It has to be completely free of logical harm.
제가 드린 이자 드린 가상마서 잡리리 나리야 체리 바다 그 추키 멜랭키 체리 바다다 디산 낭비에게 켜바다 하면 양양 돈이 지고 돈이 진 심주지 딱지지 지시 주세는 지지를 지시는 로트웨디 내가 체리 바다 양 돈이 진 그냥 보더지
So then, because of the Buddhists are following mainly on the basis of reasoning, nowadays, among the different religious culture, among the different religions, there's one in the Buddhism with which even the scientists are willing to collaborate, willing to discuss, willing to talk on the same table, Oh, you Buddhists say this, oh, we scientists say this. They are able to discuss, So this means even the scientists are, who are using logic, they can understand what Buddhist people mean, what they mean. So there is the possibility of the discussing each other on different points, So this is really a quality, something that is peculiar in Buddhism.
제가 세리버데서 게단 남비게 따다마서 표지역에 난데디 그래서 추레면데 세리라면 해야지 추레면도 뜻이고 그래서
So these, scientists, when they talk with all these Buddhist scholars, in different monasteries in India and in the West and so forth, they say, oh, the Buddhism is actually science, it's not a religion. Because they see, oh, it's something really, everything is based on logic, so it's really science, scientist things they are saying now.
제가 빼나 가서 남바치기 뭐이나 남비치 로조 진행 기요이나 세리버 투르는데 주로 현대시 투어이나야 딱 상말이야 남비 가시야 버디 상말이야 주체는 시작이었지 팔이나야 주체 깨지체요 소리는 가리네요 딱 주체는 통 리베트 딱 시작이었지 차요 뒤자 휴식 할 수 없다 그냥 간다 수술 술을 가르치 이제 가르치고 있는데 리시자 뽑아요 리시자요
For this particular quality of the Buddhism, there is the door of the Buddhism is open to everybody, as the theory is open to all levels of people. People can discuss, scientists can discuss with the Buddhists, and the Buddhists can also ask some questions to them. The other people ask questions to the Buddhists. There's the opening nature of dialogue, without any limit, They can talk on and on, without any like a limit or interdiction saying no, don't ask this question, no. Oh, this is taboo, no. Anything that is that is questioned, when one can talk, one can discuss, saying yes or no, and the other people can talk, the people can talk. So somehow, Buddhism is something that can adapt to any kind of situation, any kind of people, no matter who comes. Buddhists are able to talk, able to answer, and able to receive, not only questioning and answer, but able to receive also information and also able to share information. So this is, I think, it's a great thing to share, I think, also, with any kind of people.
제가 좀 된데 기들이 송요래 아주 두번나리야 두번나라 마소반의 미샤오세 좀 된데 저는 메디기 추시로 지시야 소바다나 마도 마르찬 쇼스 마 남비 추시오 제가 남바 지오에서 라초 말했어 마소반의 미샤오세 야 소바다나 마시 초 말했어 근데 이 침제
Okay. Then, also Buddha made a point very clear, in the Vinaya teaching, in the Vinaya text. Buddha said, there is no teaching without being requested. This means the Buddhist teaching or theory is not something that one has to, oh, come here, I want to give you teaching, like that's the good job, It's not. It's something taught only when somebody asks for it. Then the Buddhist, the Buddha would give teaching, or the Buddhist people would give teaching.
제가 대일 기침을 와.
So I think this is also an important key, in general, generally speaking, I think.
좀 된데 코란키야. 내 시험에 당분이 지나 20마지에 시간이 내 시험에 준생 돈도 대마레도 저 다지 제시고스. 다지 제네 할수 우리 준생 민도는 저랑 캠 내줘 말이야. 그리고 다지 제네 저랑 준생 통에 제네 캠을 그랬어.
In the Buddha's own teaching, in Sutra, Buddha said, you listen my teachings, but then you check up and then you accept only if you are interested, only if it makes sense. Buddha said, if there are things that are not so, strange, not so making sense, not making so much sense, Buddha said, don't take, don't consider them as something good for you. Don't take them as teaching. Buddha said no. You take them only when things make sense to you. Buddha said. So this is something I think is a very important message. People you understand.
제가 때때 권내가 기도와 그 주세요나 아니 주세기 지수로 가지 주세면은 이제 아니 교내리 송송 또 바디 송송세
Then of course this clearly means that Buddhist people, cannot say, oh, you must accept this because Buddha said. No, Buddha himself made things clear to them. It's something very open. There's no mystery. There's no obligation. So it's anybody can talk about it. Anybody can discuss, and the concept of quoting that we do this because such and such a Lord says so. This is not existing in Buddhism. The Lord's statement can be quoted, but we are not obliged to follow. This is the uncommon quality of Buddhism.
제가 남백에 따와 땡중 시도와 따와 땡중 세디 남백 통화에 비차되어 따와 땡중에 세디 이게 지도고 보기
And then we have the viewpoint, the philosophical point of view, or we say yesterday, about the view of dependent rising or dependent relation. So the understanding of a dependent relation in Buddhism is based upon reasonings, and this is the other side, not only basing on the conduct, but also the view, philosophical understanding.
제자 남배기 다 최대 자와 용사디 인지 자와 제벌이 중요하지. 잘 요리해서.
Then both of this view and the practice at the end, we can say they are originating from compassion. Compassion as the origination or the origin, then came out the theory and the practice, we can say, theoretical things and the practical things. But these are both backgrounded from the background of compassion, we can say.
제자 인지 자와 제벌이 되는 중원이자 인지를 차와지 지벌이 주바디 처음 지벌 지고를 해서.
So knowing that everything is originated from compassion, then the point is not to harm, not to make negative things to other people, not to harm other people is the, let's say, Buddhist practice, not to make any harm or pain to other people.
제자 좀 내내 가르친 거를 쓰려나 추루 참아 베나마주 추루기다 수수 동로 요로와 동로 참아리가 97원이 했어. 강사리야 당한장물이 있으라고요.
Yeah, then when we talk about this dependent rising, I forgot to say before, Geshe said, but I forgot. So when we talk about this, the view of the dependent rising or dependent relation, the idea is that in Buddhism, we don't talk about a God creating the whole world. This is not accepted in Buddhism. There's no such one who makes the whole world. This is the view of the dependent rising. And then Buddha said, then okay, since the compassion is the ground, the foundation, what we need is we need to have respect to all other religions, trying not to see any fault, upon other people, upon other religion.
얘는야 출라 따뜻지 출라 동바 출루 동바 참아는 97원이 했어. 얘는야 출루 동바 참아는 가시아바디 따뜻지 했어. 남사 이시마지지 출라 따뜻지 있어. 출라 따뜻지 하세.
So the Buddha's message is we must respect, we must see or try to see the good quality. We have to generate the pure vision, of people, pure vision regarding the Lord of each religion. But then Buddha said we can have pure vision about them, but then we have to be very careful what they say, and we have to check up what they say. If it makes sense or no, we should check up what they say.
제사다 사지 좀 내내 호나 따와디. 이니 시도 만들어시도 왔다 갔어. 참아 타도나 리벌레 주세기 지수로래 세지. 송도와 호랑기 시아바 이나야 자따지 제쇼 남산 심마제 스나도와.
So this means the suggestion is that one should not trust because so and so such and such is said by a Lord, a God or a Lord or so and so. So then when Buddha said this, is not saying, oh, but mine should be accepted. You should accept this. Even himself, Buddha saying, not only investigating the message of other religious leader, but also my own teaching, also my things that I mentioned myself also should be investigated. So he doesn't leave any. He doesn't exclude himself. He also includes himself within this object of the investigation.
그래서 좀 내내 가르쳐 무슨 매 가서 추세디 매나기를 했습니다. 추세디 매나기를 했어. 추 tombapo tombati 매번나기를 했어. This one was.
Got it. Then on the other hand, when Buddha presents theology or teaching, he says we have to consider the guide as the guide whoever found the foundation, whoever founded the religion should be considered like a doctor. And the message that is coming from this leader are like the medicine. This way we consider them, we see them as a doctor, and we see their teaching, their message as a medicine, which actually help us to cure our problem.
本来我说，面总是一个面上去可以，的面样子的，面都家里，但是呢，但切不切就好了，还是呢，面忙着，两个手术那啥了对的，开始了骨肉的，开始了偏的，开始了的，骨肉嘛，开始了偏的，开始了怒肉的，天堂些的取舍的，以前面今年的说了，南边去呀，去的是骨肉嘛的，还是呢，抗生素的。 抗当没把什么人这么的原则，他那把别个呀去这么的，开始的呀那边去偏的，搞有开始的呀，可能给抗他什么那边去的，他们地路嘛，或者这双子确实的处理压力的多一些，那有关系，确实的对些叔叔的。
Okay. And then the religions themselves are various, are diverse, and nobody can say, "Oh, this religion is bad. Oh, this religion is the best. This is something not right." Other religions are all necessary, not all for one person, single person, no. Maybe some are good for some people, some are bad for some people. So depending on the situation of each person, some religions can be taken as medicine, some can be refused away for some time. Maybe when the time comes, maybe that one which was rejected can be taken back. So everything is a question of time, question of our mental, let's say, predisposition, depending on the question of the moment and so on. So, it's very easy, when we go to pharmacy, in pharmacy, all we see is all medicines. But then of course, all the medicines are not good for some people. Some of them are for some people, some of them are maybe poisons for some people, depending on the sickness of the person, Maybe some of them are good for some people. But at the end, the conclusion is each of this medicine is useful for each and every single person, depending on their case. So likewise, even Buddhism, for example, is one religion, and then maybe it can be bad for some people, because maybe some people are not ready, and maybe it can be good for some people. So depending on the time and the situation, everything is relative to the need of person. So medicines are good, but then depending on the time and the moment, maybe they are not good for the moment. Some medicine can be taken, some cannot be taken.
그래서 삼루티 땅인데, 딱 나머지 그건 생기 고향도야. 그래서 줄로 참아놓으래 줄로디. 근데 줄로디 야버래 가서나 줄로디 진이 미사야만 거 미심하고 싶지 팽이요. 그래서 팽이 요인자 야버래 삼삼지 삼들리도와. 네 줄로디 야슈인 삼삼삼들리도와.
So when when one presents such religion as like open religion, then of course people are not stupid. People are all thinking that they all have wisdom. So So somehow then they all say, oh, this is interesting, you know. So they are, you know, they think. So in that way, whatever religion makes some restriction, then somehow there's some, you know, like some difficulty, you know. Whatever is open, somehow it attracts more people. So then it all depends on the on how it is presented.
제가 아니 미참으로 마카산끼리 씹어나니 주류 가리나래 미리 가리나래 빠빠도 가리는 게 맞아 삼아 미히 받지 거라고 맞아 미히 받지 거 인사에 삼모디 빼자지 뭐래도 와
As I said yesterday, you know, we in this universe or on this world, on this earth, we are so many, and there are many religions, there are many different kinds of people. Only, you know, people are maybe different because of color, because of religions, because of caste, because of this and that. But then at the end, you know, everybody wants to be happy. So then, from that point of view, you know, it's important to have the mindfulness that everybody wants to be, you know, wants to have peace. So to be aware of these factors are very important.
제가 되면은 부스도 보시 위치 차리는데
So I think when somebody has this this way of thinking, there's more space. The mentally, there's so much space for us to feel more free, you know, to move back and forth. But if everything is restricted within one area, saying you must do this, you must do this, shouldn't do that, wow, then really that makes really a big, you know, that really blocks so much space for ourselves. Even psychological would feel blocked by everywhere, you know, because we are not allowed, we wouldn't feel free to move here and there. Don't you think so?
제가 때 드리기고 수수수 부스도 보수로와 따로 부스도 보여있어 뒤 양내치기 주로디 미디 거라히 부스도 잘하고
So I think, you know, when things are restricted to something, to this and that, then the view, you know, from the point of view is already limited, you know. So we are not able to move. So it makes stress, you know, to people. So then, of course, then it's much better to have a free space, a theory, a view with, you know, more freedom. Of course, this is much better for any kind of person.
가시들이 연구도 왔거나 가시 배지 주로 심각해 답변아 방안을 들어보니까 세면시 나르지 주로 주로기 방안을 치 나지 이제 소소리 녹으면서 수수지 지구면서 녹으면서 현안을 지리기도 와 가리게베야 말이
Okay.
그렇게 제대로
So let's say now, I think, you know, if one is really open to mentally, you know, philosophically, culturally, at all level, then, you know, the person would feel free no matter where the person goes. In any kind of shrine, you know, temple, any kind of place of veneration, in any kind of maybe like Wampa monastery, or there are many images, you know. This is because mentally one is with there's space in the mind. But if one has some kind of blocked, some kind of limited space, when the people go to, you know, some kind of temple, some kind of, you know, place of homaging and prostration, they see some kind of image up, you know, on the altar, there and there. They would feel, oh, maybe they harm us, maybe they beat us, maybe they, you know, there's so much, you know, like conceptualization, because one is mentally blocked by so much, you know, like limited and restricted things. So one wouldn't feel, you know, free. But if one is really opened, you know, spiritually, philosophically, and so on, there's no fear, no restriction, no stress. One would feel really, one really feels the space, you know, in the mind.
제상 가서 드리도가 lumbu 카시리 야트리 요래. 근데 자간 나무를 요래. 자간 나무. 카시 고소 리도 자리에서. 고소 리 두자리에서. 가서 리 통보를 지하고 있어. 아니 고소 리 두자이자 고소 냥도 칼라사비. 가서 리도 차도 있어. 제로. 카시 드리 요래 고소 리 두자리는 고소게 류게 무슨 가서 지나 수술 보고 가서 놓고 있어. 되게 간데스 넣어놓다. 그 메리 소소 메리 녀모 여러 찍어래. 소소 그 요라 녀모 여러 넣자. 시동 하나 소소 요라 녀모 칸디 가다. 그 메리 말이 리나 미리 뭐 찍어래. 가리도네. 그 리도 뭐지? 간데 담보 간데스 리도 뭐 줘. 지 리도 자스 담보 간데스 리도 자 줘. 근데 소소게 sögere 봐. 가시 리도 자래. 미교보 반주민이 쪽에서 소소 리도 자래서. 소소 반주 유니다지 원자 유니도 소소서 가서 리 상벌 소소서 sögere 봐. 리 야고도 두자 담고 가는 시중 거래.
Okay. So, I think maybe here in the West, it doesn't happen so much, but in India, for example, there's cultural stress, like limitation, spiritual, philosophical restrictions, and so in India, for instance, they have this concept of caste, very well, not caste, so caste. So they say, oh, these people they are low caste, or we are high caste, But in fact, who made this caste? It's actually definitely only a question of maybe a little bit of power of economy. Maybe we're rich, then we make ourselves high caste. And then these people also have this very limitation, limitation of their culture or the concept, wrong concept thinking. Oh, we shouldn't mix up with them because there's some kind of dirty energy comes to us, to our body. There, some kind of dirts are coming toward us, and sometimes they think, oh, we shouldn't let ourselves under the shade of the body of this low caste. It's too bad. Of course, it's all completely superstitious thought. What does the shade of them do to us? Nothing can harm us. So, in fact, these people of the low caste and the people of the high caste, they all are, completely full of delusions, completely full of, self-cherishing minds. So then they're all same. It's only certain people make this category, and it's their problem. It's not a problem of other people.
나는 가서 출국하시 나라야지. 나간 나라야. 어머로 쇼 말이야. 어머 좋나? 아니지. 근데 가서 나한테 너무 잘했어. 어레도 와. 나들 하가들 하디 그래. 어레. 나디 인지기도 아니 말래. 나디 가르치래. 나디 사고나 안에 가르치래. 그럼
Then maybe you heard in some place, some temples, women cannot go. They say, oh, no woman is allowed to go in this temple. So this means in that temple, the god or the image or the deity, whatever inside, are they god of compassion or the hatred? What are they? What are the definition of this deity, of this god? If they have compassion, they should let in any kind of person, woman or this and that. There shouldn't be any restriction, So there are things like this in the world,
제사다 제다가 낭비추야 약효리스를 메다야 낭비에게 리다 루세들이야 조시오 말이스 주바 조시오 리다 주바 조시 주바 세디 가상 간지 지미나 수수주 냠내기 또바 내가 자주 요리 바바 야매 유지는 네 강사들 다 조치고 자신 못 제대로 포모다 리다 지지지 리드 세야 조치와 요 말했어요.
But then, of course, here I'm not saying, only the Buddhism is important, it's prestigious and most special. No, it has nothing to do with this, in Buddhism, what is important is the practice of, inner practice of, right attitude, the right way of thinking, compassion, bodhicitta, and Buddhism say about the this one, like the class, the group of the group of blood, group of lineage. There is no importance at all. Buddhism say they're all same, but what is important fundamentally in Buddhism is only the development of the development of that is inside the person. What he meditates, what is developed, this is most important. Buddhism emphasizes.
그래서 장출승과 세대 기지부지도와
Then obviously, because of this, the word Bodhisattva then is known. This means they have developed such attitude in them.
그래서 따뜻한 소문도 대인상 딱 간다 스마상보 세대 장출심사 같은데 장출심 피고로 장출심세 스마상보 제들이 스마상보는 야휴디 장출심이 그래서 스마상보 제고 제들 딱 소문이
Okay, then, as we talk about the three principal aspects, this is the second one, and the second one is bodhicitta, or mind of enlightenment. And the mind of enlightenment in practice means to have good heart, to have positive mind, to have right attitude toward other people, toward our own relative, our own people, our own friends. This is the essence.
스마상보 제고 이나 미 기초는 가만 도가 있네요. 가만 도가 있네. 미 스마상보 이나 미 참만게 미 스마야고 요다 스마상보래 미 참만 소소리야 소가고 지들 미스 스마 도자는 미 참만 도자 쉬우죠. 스마 도자 쉬우죠. 미 참만 막아지.
I think if we are, if we didn't have good heart, if we were only too much self-cherishing, if we had only self-cherishing mind, then maybe people wouldn't appreciate wherever we go, people would try to make like, oh, please get lost, like go away. People wouldn't like to be close. But if somebody has good heart, somebody has good energy, some kind of vibration and a positive energy, somehow this attracts everybody would want to be around. Oh, I want to see her, oh, I want to be there, just be close. It's already good enough for some people to be close because there's good energy. But if there's too much egoism, too much, like aggression, too much negativity, people would try to avoid. Even if somebody had to go somewhere, maybe people would try to not see. They want to sort of like go somewhere else because there's negative energy. So this makes a difference.
제사단 최대 제어치만에 파샤 치들이야 스마상을 지면은 조그마한거와 소소리야 그거보다 가오 먹어도와 소소간에 좋은 여러 가지 먹어도와
then we don't need to talk so much about future life and past life and so forth. Even for this life, for this present life, if we were a little bit better person, we would have more friends, more man friend, more woman friend, and more people would be ready to help us. Oh, can I help you? Or can I do something for you. What can I do? People come to you. Otherwise, it will be always opposite. Please help. I'm always going to go look after them. But if we had this, the positive thought, somehow, since we are good, people also are willing to give some hand, to give some help to us. So this is the quality of bodhicitta mind.
가디 시작해.
주제 중에 있으면 잘해.
윤이. 감사합니다.
제가 치치치치다.
나는 스테이크 시작해.
I think it's time to stop now. Okay, time for lunch. Mangiare. Mancare, no? Muoio c'è. Lama sangye dojo dola jiya malu ba de sala lo ba sho zhang zhong sen to lin bo ji ma ge ba ma ge ju ji ge ba nyang ba me ba ya gong ni gong de pe lo wa sho
오케이, 주둥 가봐라.
주도 저거래
원래.
alla chance o 5 sì